Okay, so good morning, Darrell. How you doing, man?
Doing good, Matt. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Thank you for joining me on, as you see back here, On the Hook with Matt Wilson. We prepared 4 hooks to talk about today, and we're going to start with number 3, and I'm going to read it, but I'm also going to ask you a question, kind of lead you in how I want to hear about it from your perspective in the beginning, and then you can kind of go with it.
Sure,
Okay?
absolutely.
So the hook number 3 is pay attention to how you react when presented with an opportunity. Initial unmanaged reactions could eventually lead to disappointment. So for those that are out there watching and they don't know you, tell me a little bit about yourself, right? And then we can kind of talk about some opportunities that came about in your life where you had some maybe reactions that you needed to manage. How about that?
Absolutely, yeah. So my background is I was fortunate enough to play professional baseball for 16 years, 7 years at the major league level, played 4 years in Japan, and bounced around a lot of different organizations. So I've been around the game a little bit.
Wow. What are some of the teams? You said how many teams?
Started with the Braves,
Yeah.
the Pirates, the Angels. From there, I went to Japan for 4 years, 2 different teams over there, Hanshin Tigers, Tokyo Giants, came back to the Kansas City Royals, San Diego Padres, New York Yankees, Minnesota Twins, and Cincinnati Reds is where I finished it out.
Wow. What year was this? What year did you retire?
2006, I believe it was.
Okay.
So, been out of it a little while.
Fantastic. That's just amazing. That's amazing. So as it relates to hook 3, initial unmanaged reactions, I can when I write about this, I talk about like elevating opportunities that come along. So wow, I remember, I'll tell a little story here. Many years ago, before the moving out thing, before I did the Billy Joel tour, I met Crystal Taliaferro, who was in Billy Joel's band. And she was going to produce a song for me. I had just signed a deal with a record label and we needed a song really fast. And so I flew into Florida. I can't remember where, maybe Miami or something, where Billy Joel was on tour. And I met up with Crystal, and we used Billy Joel's band to record the track. I mean, this was just fairy tale rock star stuff going on.
Yeah.
But I remember when I heard that this was all going to happen. All right. When I first got the news it was all happened, excitement took over, and then immediately I said, I got to get to a piano. I got to get to a piano right now. I got to practice. I got to make sure that I know what I'm doing. I just, that initial reaction came over me was excitement and a little bit of anxiety, right? A little bit of like, oh man, this is huge. With those 2 things we could talk about are kind of the same. So I'm thinking, here you are. Were you drafted out of high school? Were you drafted out of college? Tell me.
So I came out of junior college. So I had 2 years of my college education done. Had a scholarship. I was going to go to University of Tennessee and finish out my playing days at the college level and get my education. And got drafted by the Braves, and it was a great opportunity. So it was one that I couldn't pass up. So I decided to take the draft and sign with the Braves at that point in my career. And it wasn't an easy choice. Definitely wasn't.
Right. How did you? What kind of emotions did you have to kind of manage at that point, or were you so young that you were kind of oblivious to the situation? You're just ready to go out there and get it?
Absolutely not. I mean, here you are. You're making life-changing, choices right there and then. 2 years of education. I can go on, and my education was going to be paid for me to play baseball, right? At another major college, or take the draft, sign. Yeah, you get some money up front on that. The deciding factor for me is with Major League Baseball, if you have a scholarship to go on to play in college and a team drafts you and ultimately signs you, they're on the hook to pay for your college education when you're finished playing baseball or when you want to continue it. So it was a win-win, right? I
Right.
was getting to
Right.
go play professional baseball, and my education was going to be able to be paid for when I wanted to go back to school.
I remember uh, when I was chosen for moving out. I came from the street, if you will. I came from the clubs and the bars, and I had my training, if you will, my professional training was just on stage. I didn't study a lot at school, music. I didn't have a lot of teachers. I just kind of learned from doing it, right?
Yeah.
So and that proved to be, I don't want to say a weakness when I got under the bright lights, but I couldn't rely on a lot of learned technique. I had to rely on what I knew that I taught myself, and I learned from those around me. Right.
Right.
But you going through the junior college and high school and all that, there you are, you have this opportunity. You've obviously, played so many years in baseball. You had the technique and all the skill down, but you were drawn to this hook a little bit of like initial unmanaged reactions. Was there any doubt, or was it more even the opposite, where you had all these exciting positive reactions that you had to tamper down? Where did it fit on the scale?
Yeah, I think if you ask any athlete, or if you look at any athlete, there's a bit of cockiness to us, right? And there has to
Right.
be.
Has to be, yeah.
You have to think that you're that good.
Yeah.
And so I had that cockiness, I had that swagger, if you
Here we
will.
go.
It didn't matter. I mean, I went from high school, small high school in Oregon, to junior college in California, where I was one of the best players in the state. To I was just another guy that was one of the best players from wherever he came from.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that was a little humbling. And so the next step going into professional baseball was the same thing. So there was definite managing expectations. I was not a high draft pick. I was not a first round draft pick. So I didn't get the same opportunities that maybe a first rounder, top rounder would get. So I
Right.
had to manage those expectations. And when the opportunity presented itself, I had to make sure that I performed well, so that I didn't get passed up and, maybe released, or who knows, just not pitch very much. And so I had to
Yeah.
make the best of the opportunity I had.
So you move through your career. Can you think of one time, uh, a season, a particular game, or something that you knew was coming up, and it was maybe bigger than the average thing, right?
Yeah.
A greater opportunity. Talk about maybe one or two, maybe one that you handled really well, and maybe one that could have handled better, possibly.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I
There
mean,
is,
yeah.
if there is.
Yeah. I could talk about this forever. There's a lot of them. Early on in my career, I was in low A ball, Macon, Georgia,
Mm-hmm.
and I was performing well. Our entire pitching staff was performing well, and word got back to me, and it was on the day that I was pitching, that the top brass, all the big scouts, and the president of the team was coming from Atlanta down to Macon to watch me pitch that night.
Okay.
And normally things didn't seem to phase me that much, but that one got to me, and I had probably one of the worst games I had all that year.
Okay. Let me back
Uh,
up. How long did you have prep time again? When did you hear?
oh, I knew the day before,
The day
so
before. So find
so
out
the
the day
day
before.
before, so I had plenty of time to be like, hey, it's just another game. I just let it build up too much, and then kind of the snowball effect. Once I got out there and didn't feel good, and things didn't feel right, instead of finding ways, and at this point, I really didn't know, how do I relax? How do I make myself relax?
Okay.
I had some ideas, but the pressure was mounting in my head of, they're here to watch me. They're here to watch me, and I'm performing horrible. So that was difficult. That's hard to bounce back from. Fortunately, I was able to, and moved on. But that one was one that I would say was extremely tough. One that I would say would be really good is, in turn, I was in Double A, and I got called up to Triple A.
Mm-hmm.
And with the Braves in the early '90s, there was nowhere to go. AAA is the highest minor league level. After that, it's the big leagues.
It's the big league, yeah.
And I was just even surprised I got called up to AAA because we had some really good pitchers on that staff, guys that went on to play years in the big leagues. You know, Brad Woodall, Jason Schmidt, some other guys that were there. And I get there, and the pitching coach is this old grumpy guy. And my first outing, I'll never forget. I was a little nervous, and I wasn't a hard throwing pitcher, so I relied on being accurate. And I walked the bases loaded. Our pitching coach comes out to me, and I don't even know what he said other than 50 curse words.
Yeah.
And turned around and walked back to the dugout. And at that point, I could have just melted. I could have just melted and caved to the pressure. And, you know, it was my first time in AAA, first experience at that level. You know, in AAA, you've got guys that have played in the big leagues before. You got some teams that they got their backup players just sitting there in AAA waiting in case somebody gets hurt.
Right.
So they really it's a good level. And I actually remember I stepped off the back of the mound. I grabbed the rosin bag. I shook it in my hand. I said, "Well, we either perform or we don't." And it was as simple as that. And I just tried to keep it simple and focused on one pitch at a time, and got out of the inning and ended up being one of my better games. So
cool.
You know, I mean, it happens. You just you gotta figure out how to deal with the pressure of it.
You know, and that's an excellent statement for my next question, because as I've, you know, I wrote the book and I'm talking to people about these things, and more I start thinking in my mind, okay, it feels good to say these things so other people can hear and go, well, hey, a professional baseball player can relate to how I'm feeling about that, or feel the pressure, you know, a professional musician, or this, that, and the other. But even the next step, what specifically could you do? So let's go back here. It's the day before your big game, and you hear the brass are coming in to watch you pitch, right? Yeah. If you could go back then and have that day over, what are some things that you would do? Because it says, again, the hook is initial unmanaged reaction. So how would you, what you've learned, manage your reactions heading into that game and maybe have a better game?
I would say the biggest thing is recognizing that there's anxiety, that there's something inside of me that's just not right, it doesn't feel right because they're coming into town. I'm letting it get me. Back then, it would be like, oh, just push it aside, push it out of your head, not a big deal.
Yeah.
As I got older, I realized, no, you need to bring that in and say, yes, this is here in front of you, and it potentially could affect you, but now let's focus on the positive things. What are some of the positive things? Did I prepare? Did I do everything that I could to prepare for this next outing that I'm having? If my answers are yes, which they should be, because every day I walked off the field, I would ask myself, did I give it 100% today of everything that I had in order to prepare to make myself better? And if I could answer yes, then I'd move on. If I didn't, sometimes I'd turn around and go back out on the field. Maybe I needed to run more. Maybe I needed to do something. But I never wanted to walk off the field thinking that I could have done more to make myself better. And so having the confidence, the reassurance that I have done everything I can to prepare for that game would have put me more at ease, being like, hey, I've done everything. Now I just got to go out there and make it happen. Just execute what I've practiced.
That's right. And so, and it sounds so simple, right? I mean, it really does. But when you're overwhelmed at the moment, and in the book, I talk about giving moments more meaning than maybe not than needed. I mean, that's a big deal, right? Yeah. But ultimately, if you strip the meaning from whatever you're trying to do, then it's just executing the pitch, singing the note, delivering the sale, whatever it may be. Ultimately, it's the same action. It's just how much meaning you've applied to that starts to cloud your ability to perform.
Exactly. You got to strip all that away and just take it down. You know, you and I talked about before, even backtracking, I was fortunate enough to work with a sports psychologist in college named Ken Ravisa, who later on, we sort 6 degrees separation, came back, and he was my sports psychologist when I was with the California Angels, Anaheim Angels. And then I ran into him again in Japan. So working with him, we talk, he would talk a lot about stripping things down and just getting back to one pitch at a time, and controllables, right? It's all about controllables.
Right.
What can you control and what can't you control? Umpire makes a bad call, can't control that. All you can do is control how you react to it. And even simplifying it even more, the only thing you really have control of is your breathing. So if you can control your breathing, focus on your breathing,
Boom.
It slows everything down. Even though things may not be going slow around you, it slows down inside for you. So just getting back to the simplicity of things, I think really helps. And it's not something that comes easy. It definitely takes a while to learn.
I understand that. Over the years that I uh, have been performing and trying to not master. I mean, I guess you maybe never master it, but you get better at your focus.
Sure.
I can't think of a movie right off the top of my hand, but those movies where the hero is doing whatever he's doing and everything blurs around him.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
I'm thinking there's a golf movie right now, maybe the Bagger Vance movie.
Right. That's a good example. Yeah.
Everything blurred and all he could see was just the ball and hitting the ball. And I have those moments on stage where there could be 5 people in the crowd, there could be 500, there could be 5,000, whatever. But I've learned to just kind of, everything blurs out. It's just me and the piano and what I'm doing. And it does come down to breath. And I relate to it, think inward rather than outward. Outward is the people judging you. Outward is the response of the crowd. Outward is those that are making the decisions and paying the bills and the success or failure. Inward is, well, I know how to sing this note. I know how to play this piano part. I know how to pitch that ball. I just got to stay inside. Right.
Exactly. That's it. I mean, to your point, that is exactly what it's got to be like. People ask me, how do you do it? How do you go out there in front of 40,000, 50,000 people and do it? I'm like, was there that many people there? Because honestly, if I focus on that, then I know I'm not at my best. I'm done. I'll be out of there by the second, third inning at best.
Right.
But if I just focus on what I can control, then it simplifies things. And I don't hear the crowd. I don't see the crowd. I don't even pay attention to them until after the game. Then I'm like, oh, wow, there's a pretty big crowd here tonight.
When you're going out in the 7th inning or 8th inning, you've pitched a no-hitter right now, and you wave to the crowd on the way out, right? So
right, exactly.
I'm gonna put you on the spot real quick, and so go back in time there to that day before the people are coming to town. And if I were to run these 6 things by you, tell me if you think that would have been helpful. Okay. And again, I'm putting you on the spot because you can say no. All right. You have the right to say no. So this is within that hook, and then we'll move on to the other ones.
Sure.
I tongue in cheek named this the opportunity reaction management system, right? It kind of made it sound serious, but here we go. So number 1, identify the uncertainty. So we've talked about it. You were uncertain whether or not you could perform at your best in front of these folks, right? I mean, that was ultimately what it is. And then number 2, ask what if. It says here, go wild here. Just feel free to jump into the anxiety and doubt pool, right? Yes. Just kind of, oh man, I'm going to throw the ball. I'm going to hit a bunch of bat. Right? So you ask what if, but then you start to make a plan. And that's what you said earlier is that, well, I have all these tools and these resources to practice and get better, and you're going to apply them, right? So
absolutely.
Make a plan. And then the key, the turnaround here is moving to a position of control. You have a say in what happens, gain confidence from executing your plan. And you said that earlier. If I had been practicing, if I had been working on my technique, if I've been working on my focus, then I'm in control, right?
Yep.
Okay?
100%.
Now you got to go. I mean, the game starts, people bought tickets, TV's on, you got to do it, right? So you don't have a choice there. I guess you did, but you go do it. And then you accept the outcome. Acknowledge that if you followed your routine and the 5 steps earlier, then you gave it your best. And at that point, if you're not good enough, well, then you go get better, right? Because you can always get better.
Absolutely.
Right. And if you achieve, then you go, yeah, I did it, and gain confidence from that. Does that all sound?
That sounds right. The only thing that I would add to that is, especially when you perform good, you walk off the stage, or I walk off the mound, and yeah, it's great. Everybody's patting you on the back. You feel great about it. it's easy to move forward from that. It's when things don't go right that it is hard to. And I think in a sports world specifically, baseball is such a negative sport in the sense of the stats, right? There's a ton of stats. There's stats for everything. So my big thing is in a bad outing, when I walk off the mound, I don't care if I made it through 5 innings, through 1 inning, find the positive and build on the positive.
Okay.
Always find the positive and build on the positive, because there's so much negative out there. You could beat yourself up for days on that, but you got to find the positive. Find the one thing. There's got to be some. I mean, I don't care if I went out there and gave up 4 home runs in a row, didn't make it out of the first inning. I threw a first pitch strike. That's my positive. That may be the only positive I have for the day, but I'm going to build on that.
That's excellent. Because in the next game, you could say, well, I knew struck out the first batter, or I knew I had a first strike right out of the gate. So I'm going to build on that. You draw that, right? I even realized the other day, it was a defense mechanism. If I have a bad outing, my reaction is go make it better, go get better. Yeah. I feel the discouragement a little bit, but I'm so driven, and I believe that I may not believe that I'm good enough at the moment because I wasn't able to do it. Right. I wanted to, but I know I have the drive to get better. Right. Yeah. And you're right. You think about, well, what am I building from? What is it that I'm good at, and build from there. I wanted to ask something, because it's I think it's in this hook or one of them coming up. And I want to ask you if you agree with this. I've learned, at least for me, and then I've kind of seen it enough where I've kind of made it a theory, the base level theory, which is if you practice, and you learn and you work on your craft a certain level, at some point you have a base level, which means as long as you're trying and as long as you're in the right frame of mind, meaning that you're not, you haven't been drinking, or you're not on, you're in a normal state of mind, right? Because some musicians perform and drink, but if you're in the right state of mind and you're giving maximum effort, you may be under a lot of duress, but your base level, you can't go lower than that.
Absolutely.
So, and I learned that because I would have so many shows where I was under so much duress, but I would continue to play and sing and deliver the show, and it was recorded, and I'd go back and watch and go, wait a minute, I thought this was horrible. This isn't that bad at all. Right. Yeah. And so no matter what my mind was telling me, no matter the turmoil and all the doubt and all the conversation and inner dialogue I was having, my base level chugged along at that level. And then I would work to raise it, and then it would get better the next. Is that the same for an athlete, you believe?
Yeah, I think so. And I think everybody individually is different. I was fortunate enough to play in the big leagues for a while, but I'll tell you, I played with guys that had 10 times more talent than me. They just didn't take care of themselves. They were out drinking all the time. They were up late. I knew I wasn't good enough, that I had to do the little things in order to make it happen. So, throughout most of my minor league career, I didn't drink. I didn't do the things that I knew were going to affect my physical ability. Right. I set my level a little bit higher. And then again, going back to every day, I would ask myself coming off the field, did I give it everything I had today? And before practice, going on the field, and it's the same thing I ask all my high school kids that I coach nowadays. I get my pitchers in the bullpen, or I tell the kids what our game plan is for the day for practice. I'm like, all right, so now you know what we're doing. What are you going to do to make yourself better today? Give me one thing. We're going to be hitting, we're going to be taking ground balls. What is it that you want to try to do to make yourself better? Because if you're not motivated in a direction, you're not going to go in any one direction. You're going to go in all directions.
You have to aim.
I think that the aim, the focus needs to be there daily. And part of that is, checking in after a practice, after a game, and seeing what did I do well, what I didn't do well, and what am I going to work on tomorrow.
Excellent. So the next hook here that kind of resonated with you, and this one's cool, is positive and negative emotion can adversely affect a performance. Yeah. People always think, you know, people always think, oh, I was, man, you know, the big coaches were in town, the brass were in town, they're watching me, or I got nervous here, or I got behind in the count, or I, you know, negative things. But man, you could be like, all of a sudden check in and go, man, I'm killing this. I am killing it. And next thing you know, you're out of your flow. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. To me, the hook number 3 and this one kind of go hand in hand, right? They really do. Checking in and knowing positive and negative emotions necessarily are not bad too. I mean, I'm gonna point that out. I mean, there's times where, like I mentioned, that team when the top brass from the Braves came down to watch me, I was probably the best pitcher, if not one of the best pitchers on there, but I didn't get called up to the next level first. Other guys did.
Right.
So there was some negativity in that. I was upset. Because I felt like I had outperformed, but I used that as motivation.
There you go.
If you can use that negativity as positive motivation, I think it could be a good thing.
Yeah.
But you got to keep it in check, because just as easily I could have used that as, well, they don't think that I'm very good because they didn't call me up. I could have turned it and it could have spiraled and gone down the other way.
Right.
So it's really good to be aware of the positive and negative emotions that are going inside of you and check in with them, and how are you utilizing them to make you better.
Can you think of any time where you're just you're striking them out, man? You're blowing through the lineup, and you kind of gave yourself a pat on the back, and that kind of threw you off a hot minute, right?
Oh yeah, you get a little cocky, and you know, just like in anything else, when you think you've got it, it comes back and bites you in the butt for sure.
Yeah,
that has definitely happened. You know, more than once. Just things are going well. My bullpen's getting ready for games are going well, and then the next thing you know, you have no clue why, but you just had a horrible game. And then, you know, it's like starting all over again. Okay, well, let's not get cocky this time.
Yeah,
let's keep myself in check and stay focused and stay within the lines of what I know how to do best, and not try to, you know, I'm not a power pitcher that's going to try to throw 95, so why should I throw 95?
Yeah. Don't show them what you can't do. I write here, the time for evaluating performance is after the fact. Right. Yes. Resist the urge to have a quality control meeting right then and there. And I think the key point is that it's easy to think of moments when things aren't going well, where you're trying to dig yourself out. Like you said, hey, it's either now or never. I got to do this right now because things aren't going great. But a lot of people don't realize that you can have you can interrupt your flow the same way, by starting to pat yourself on the back, by starting to feel really, really great about what you're doing.
Absolutely. You become more relaxed. You become relaxed because you know, oh, I've got a handle on this. I know what I'm doing. I've got this, right?
Right.
Some of my best games that I ever had in the minor leagues I was sick as a dog. Absolutely sick as a dog. And why were they my best games? Because I was so hyper focused on every pitch and what I was doing. I wasn't allowing myself to relax because I didn't have my best physical ability coming forward with me. So I had to rely on mentally just tuning in just a little bit more, just taking my time a little bit more, focusing a little bit more on the target, whatever it was. So when I was sick, I'd pitch sick, my games were actually better a lot of times.
Do you think that, I want to ask something about that. Do you think the part of that also was that the meaning of those games shifted, that you almost knew that you had without a better term, a little bit of an out? Hey, I'm sick and I'm out here trying this. Mm-hmm. And so in your mind, again, you had to focus a different way. You had to, but you also had this thing going on, like, well, I'm sick. If it doesn't work out, I can just tell coach, look, I gave it a try, but I was sick. And so that changed the meaning, put you in a different state of mind. But again, as we talked about earlier, base level, your ability is the same.
Yeah. And
so your mindset was different, and you were able to deliver maybe at a more consistent level.
No, that's a good point. And I'm sure somewhere in the back of my mind, I was thinking that a little bit. But you know, being baseball, again, back to being such a stat driven sport. Well, if I don't perform, I can say, hey, I wasn't sick, but it's going to still be there.
They don't care.
The next day, it's going to be in the paper that, hey, he sucked.
Yeah. They don't. Yeah. You're right.
And you carry that with you. You carry that with you, right. The whole season.
How does this hook, as we head into hook 50, when you read this, because this is a complete, I'm coming up from music perspective, but the hook is play one song at a time.
Yeah.
Tell me why that was meaningful to you.
That was meaningful to me because since I was in high school, college, all the way through, working with sports psychologists, and I was fortunate enough to have the same coach all the way through at high school that was very knowledgeable. It was all about controllables, right? What can I control, what I can't control, and what I should focus on. And my focus should be not on the past, not on whether my teammate made an error behind me, the umpire didn't call a strike that I thought was a strike, but all I can control is the next pitch. So focus on just the next pitch, one pitch at a time. Don't try to think 2 pitches ahead. Don't try to think 3 pitches ahead. Don't just worry about the next one, because that's all you got. All you have control of is what your next pitch is.
Right.
So for me, that just kind of made sense. Like, I don't want to think too far ahead, right? I don't want to think about what I'm doing next inning, because I might not get out there for the next inning, right? I may not do well enough to be able to come back out. I may throw too many pitches and be at my pitch count and not be able to come back up. So I just need to focus on what's right in front of me right now.
Right. And when you say that, what you're also saying is that it's pointless.
Absolutely.
There's no, I mean, you can think about it, and you certainly might pitch the next inning. In fact, it's probable, depending on certain circumstances. But for you to put yourself that far in the future, your mind, it's pointless, because it may not happen. Right. So you stay here, within this hook, I talk about, I make the distinction between anticipation and foreshadowing. And from my point, so the anticipation is, okay, in your time, if you're facing a batter and he comes up, there's a really good chance that you're going to get to see him through the full count. Right. I mean, there's a really good chance. Right. So, you get your chance for your 3 strikes, your 4 balls, or whatever it may be, or a hit. Now, anticipation means, okay, I get to do this, but you haven't in your mind determined the outcome. You may take a moment to think, well, this could go really good or this could go really bad. But if you foreshadow it, that means that you've determined the outcome, and you're just waiting for that to flood over you. Right. Yeah. Oh man, this guy's going to hit a home run off me. I know it. He gets me every time. Okay, here we go. So you're no longer anticipating, you're predicting, you're foreshadowing. And I use the term, foreshadow, the literary term. I remember in certain shows, there was some really, like in Moving Out particularly, there was some piano parts that, I knew, but they were more difficult than your average just kind of playing chords or whatever. And if I allowed myself to think, it's coming up, I'm gonna screw it up for some reason, I can't, then probably would, right? I've already predicted it. I've already predicted that's going to happen. If I anticipate it, hey, I know that's coming up. Great. We'll deal with it when it gets there. It will happen. It'd be fine, or if it's not, whatever. I'm not going to, like we said, no quality control there. So did you ever find moments where you anticipated something and then it kind of went through, or you foreshadowed, you predicted?
So a great example of that is pretty much seeing a guy for the 3rd time through the order, and maybe he's had a really good day on you. And it's like, I've thrown him my best pitches and he's done his job, which sometimes you just got to tip your cap and go, okay, he did his job. And I'll never forget, first time in the big leagues with the Pittsburgh Pirates, first start in the big leagues with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and I'm facing San Diego Padres.
Huge.
And Ken Caminiti, first at bat, hits a home run off me. Second at bat, throw him a great changeup, hits another home run off me. Comes up for his 3rd at bat. I'm watching him walk up there. I'm like, I don't know what. I mean, in my head, he's already hit a home run because he's already hit 2. Okay. And catcher calls first pitch fastball away, and I get ahead for a strike. I'm like, good. He calls a curveball, which is my 4th best pitch, right?
Yeah.
At this point, I'm like, I got to try it because he's hit everything else I've thrown up there. And I throw him a good curveball, and he absolutely, I thought, clobbered this thing. Thank God he got it off the end of the bat a little bit, because in my head it was gone. Center fielder's right up against the wall, catches it. I'm like, almost hit 3 home runs. But I foreshadowed the fact that he had done so well on me these past 2 at bats. I didn't know what the heck I was going to do to get him out in this 3rd at bat.
Right. Could you, if you were further in your career, would you have called that pitch off? Or
Would
do you
I?
have, well, I mean, your fourth pitch pitch and you already in your mind, could you have maybe told the catcher, nah, I'm not going to throw that one.
Exactly. I would have been a little smarter than that and go, why am I going with my fourth best pitch? If he's going to beat me, it's going to have to be with my best pitch or second best pitch at least.
Right. Right.
Even though he already had once, maybe, I could rationalize in my mind that he got lucky. He got lucky. Just tell myself he got lucky. And if I execute, and that's what it comes down to is even when you're say a hitter's strength is fastball down and away. Well, that's my strength as well. That doesn't mean that I'm going to change my routine. I'm going to go and change what I'm best at just because he's good at it too. I'm going to put my best out there against his best, and let's see who wins.
Let's see who wins. Yeah. Yeah. That's competition. Um, so, people watching this, they're going to be relating, as we hope, to what we're talking about, but let's coach them up a little bit. So the anticipation, foreshadowing, it's okay. It's hard to control your thoughts. And I talk about in the book, thoughts they come in, they go, let them come and go. Right. So you don't try to control your thought. In fact, one of the hooks is a wrestled thought grows stronger, meaning if you really try to grab that thought and get rid of it, you're giving it more strength. Right. Yeah. So there you are on the mound. Following this comparison of foreshadowing to anticipation, how would you're coaching your baseball team in high school now. So you were with one of your pitchers. How do you coach them to, it's coming up, that batter, he's already hit you twice. How do you keep them from foreshadowing and moving more into anticipation? Because again, you can't tell them to not think about it because they're gonna.
Yeah. No, exactly. So in what I learned, especially from then, and even then I knew it, I just didn't really apply it as much, was accept the negative energy that's coming in, right?
Okay.
Let it go in one ear and out the other,
right.
Let it become a thought and then get rid of it. Well, how do we get rid of it as a thought? I was always taught with sports psychologists that there's some techniques you can do. There's some things you can do. One of them would be like, okay, it's in your mind and you're standing on top of the pitching mound on the rubber. And I'm just going to sweep my foot across the rubber. And when I sweep my foot across the rubber, I'm sweeping out all those negative thoughts. Another one would be, as a pitcher, turn around and stare at center field, pick a sign, pick something, and imagine it just turning bright red from all this negative energy and just exploding. Once it explodes, it's gone. Now, when I turn around and face the catcher, all that's gone. I get back up on the mound and I've got a job to do. So those are some of the techniques that I learned. And actually just this year, I've been able to help. I've got a couple of really good pitchers on my team that struggled with this, and it's kind of helped them to move along in their ability as well.
Man, that's so cool. Oh, that's awesome. I sometimes when I'm trying to focus, or maybe I'm trying to rest and thoughts are flooding, I think I put this in the book. I don't remember, but I envision my thoughts as pieces of paper that I wad up, throw in the trash. Wad up, throw in the trash. Wad up, throw in the trash. And then you mentioned, and it works really, because the thoughts are coming 1,000 miles an hour, but I'm throwing 1,000 miles an hour in the trash can, right? Yeah. When you were talking about turning around and finding one spot, right, in center field or something, and imagine blowing up. Now I didn't blow this up, but when I was in moving out, and I just, the crowd's out there, and all of a sudden I'm just starting to get doubt or whatever. I bought a little Han Solo, a little figurine, little Han Solo thing, and I put it on my piano, and I would play, and sometimes I would just stare at Han Solo.
Oh, okay.
I would just stare at him, and I would think, and then my hands are just doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
Singing, but I'm looking at Han Solo just to put my mind in a different spot than wrestling those thoughts that may trip me up, positive or negative, right?
Right. And because positive can make you too emotional, too anxious, and then you start, for a baseball player, for me, I'd start rushing on the mound. I start working too hard. For you, who knows, maybe you start playing too fast. Something to that effect.
Losing control of the breath was a big one.
Yeah. Absolutely. Your breathing is the most important thing you can control, I believe, in anything that you do.
You mentioned earlier, and by the way, thank you again for this time. I mean, this is,
Oh,
I'm
absolutely.
just kind of looking at the clock and we're blowing by here. I mean, this is fascinating. Um, you mentioned that many years ago, you're a rookie. You're still, even before you're rookie, you're in AAA and AA and such. And back then, as you said, they said, get over it, right? Get over it. Don't talk about it. Don't talk about these things, any of the doubt or concern. The last hook that, one of the hooks here that we pointed out, hook 49, and
Okay.
share as much about this as you feel comfortable. Look out. This is the hook. Look out. Anxiety is contagious. Talk about that.
Well, I've played with a lot of guys, and early on in my career, I had a lot of success. So I didn't have a lot of anxiety. My anxiety was, because I wasn't a top round draft pick, was I going to be, able to outperform the guys that were they going to call me up? Was I going to get to the next level? If I didn't make it in baseball, what was I going to do? Those were my issues of anxiety. One that particularly sticks out in mind was actually when I was in the big leagues and I was with the Royals. One of the veteran pitchers on the team, and we had a particularly bad team that year. And we were in a situation that I wasn't helping either. I had not been pitching well. I knew if I gave up more than a couple of runs, there was a good chance I was going to get a loss because we just weren't scoring runs. There was a whole bunch of bad negativity going on. And I had 3 starts left in the season, and I was 1 game away from losing 20 games on the season.
Yeah.
So for 3 weeks, the anxiety that was built up in me was just every time I took them out, I was like, is this going to be it? And only way that I was really able to overcome it was really by going back to asking myself, did I do everything I can to prepare? How have I brought everything forward with me to execute each pitch, and then just focus on one pitch at a time.
Right.
And fortunately, I was able to escape without losing the 20th game. But man, I'll tell you what, that anxiety about ate me up there for 3 weeks there in the end of that season.
With it being contagious, so meaning that it's going to build from other sources, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, they probably coach you don't even pick up a newspaper, right? What's right? So,
oh yeah, I mean, newspaper, social media, you name it. You think that you're walking down the street, that everybody looking at you, they're looking at you funny because they know you're a 19 game loser. You have a chance to lose 20. I mean, it's amazing what kind of mind tricks you'll play on yourself in situations like that.
Did you get it from your teammates too? I mean, I can imagine that a lot of teammates are supportive, but there might be some. I mean, it's pro ball, and maybe there's some competition going on even on the team. And I know you don't want to. I mean, don't share as much as you want. But are there times in that you experience where even some folks on your own team were trying to remind you of how you might be messing up, just so they could maybe see you kind of take a step down?
You get to that level, and even though it's in a season where the team has no chance going to the playoffs, yeah, I'm sure there's a little of it, but you don't wish that upon anybody.
Right. Right.
I don't think, and everybody that's at that level, they're already there. So it's not like they're trying to take your job. It's the guy that's in AAA that's like hoping that maybe you don't do as well. I always liked to think of it in the opposite way, especially in the minor leagues, as motivation for myself. I wanted the guy to do good because I wanted to do better.
Yeah.
So if he did really well, I was going to do better, and that was my mindset. On that one particular team, the Macon Braves, we had 5 starting pitchers that were doing extremely well, and we'd have a guy that go out and throw a complete game shutout. Okay, great. Well, he did it in an hour and 55 minutes. I'm going to do it in an hour and 50 minutes.
There you go.
So that was the way to keep it positive. I didn't ever want to see anybody do poorly. I just wanted to do better.
You want to do better. That's an excellent. Yeah. You never, I mean, for those of us that haven't been in a professional locker room or clubhouse, it's hard to know exactly how those things go,
Yeah.
When the hook says anxiety is contagious, that comes from your own thoughts kind of building upon themselves.
Sure.
If you allowed yourself to listen to the fans, if you allowed yourself to listen to the press, if you allowed yourself to listen to social media, which you know better than to do so, but if you can't, live in a bubble. Yeah, it creeped in, and then maybe in the moment, the other team maybe pointing at you or no. And so what I say in that hook is that be diligent in what you allow your mind to see and hear, which there's so many things in life that we protect. For those that have children, we protect our children. We allow them to, okay, you can go out, ride your scooter, but stay within this parameter of the street, or turn that off. You can't watch that. No, that's for mommy and daddy watch, whatever it may be. We protect our children's, and there's could be many other things that you could think about as an example of things we protect, but we probably don't really think a lot about protecting our mind. And I find myself more and more doing that if I see something on TV and I'm just like, you know what, I don't want to have that rummaging through my head, those images or this conversation or whatever, just because maybe I want some creativity flowing through me or whatever it may be. I'll turn it off. I'll protect what I see and hear. And I think that for a performer, we're already in a fickle state of confidence, because any moment something could happen that could blow us over, and all of a sudden we feel like we're starting over. Right,
without a doubt. And to add to that, as an athlete, I work on my physical ability all the time. As a performer, you work on your physical ability, being able to hit the notes right, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of times, and people just don't know how to do it. You take care of the physical stuff because that comes easy. You can do that. I mean, I can go out and work out all day, but it's the mental side. It's how do you get on the mental side? To me, that is what that is right there. You're protecting your mind. You're protecting your mental side of just being positive and staying positive in what you're doing, and only wanting to bring good things in and things that might help you perform better.
Right. And that kind of goes back to the wrestled thought idea that don't fight these things. Let them come and go. Don't judge them. It's hard to say don't pay attention to them, because they're going to happen, but
that's the worst mistake you can make, I think, is if you try not to pay attention to them, it's going to become the creepy dark shadow over your shoulder, and it's going to come back and bite you.
Right. I was talking with another, we've done a few of these and of these podcasts, and they'll be coming out soon. And the guy that I was talking to last week, his name's Ricky. He was saying that, he pointed out that anxiety and excitement, kind of, you have the same reaction in your body, and so it's almost us to determine between the two. Right. So back to the beginning, an opportunity comes along, an elevating opportunity, and then you get this feeling inside of you. Well, am I going to interpret it as excitement, like I'm ready to go do this and I'm going to prepare? Or am I going to interpret it as like, oh man, I may screw this up and this is a bad deal. Right. And so you almost, in some cases, you could have a choice of how you interpret these things and which thoughts to dwell on or let them go, So, man, this has been excellent. As a performer, as I've worked to be better at the mental side of this, to hear your perspective, as a professional baseball player, I mean, come on, there's only a small percentage of people in the whole world that get to do what you've done, and for so long. It's encouraging for me to hear your perspective. And I really do believe that those that will listen to this will be encouraged also and built up. And I know that you're out there. What high school, you want to tell us the high school that you're coaching right now?
Yeah, it's a small private Catholic high school here in Austin, St. Michael's Catholic Academy. So enjoying doing the baseball through coaching now.
Right. And I know that you're probably influencing these young men's lives and being willing to, like you said, not years past, it was like rub some dirt on it, forget about it, put it out of your mind. But you're getting a chance to coach these kids, not only how to deliver physically, but how to think about things mentally. Right.
Absolutely. I had like going back, I told you I had the same high school coach. He was my coach since I was 10 years old, all the way through high school. And I find myself doing what he did with me is I will tell these kids things that are so far over their head. They look at me like, are you an idiot or what? But I'm hoping that the same way that I did, they will as well. Is years later, a year or two later, or sometimes 5 years later, I'll think back, oh, now I get it, what he was trying to tell me, and I'm able to apply it to my life. So, a lot of this stuff is it's over their head. It's bigger than what they are now, but they will get it at some point. And so I just got to remind myself that that's how it happened for me. Hopefully, that's what happens to them.
Right. Right. I know that we focused a little bit on what happens when maybe we feel anxiety or where things aren't going right. But the hopeful and positive message here is that you succeeded. You were successful. You still are successful. You won the games. You stayed in the league. You played the game. You did it. You overcame all that. And see, that's, to me, that is the message that we want to tell people, is that it's okay to have the doubts. It's okay to have the concern.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And acknowledge it, as you said, because there is a way out. There is hope, and there is success on the other end of the struggle.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd be scared if I didn't have that, if I didn't have the anxiety, if I didn't have that negativity creep in every once in a while, if I didn't have those thoughts, because I wouldn't know how to deal with them. So,
Right.
The earlier you can learn how to deal with them, the better. And like I said, I was fortunate enough to work with a sports psychologist early on in college that happened to mentor me all the way through my career for the most part. It made a huge difference, in a time where I was able to get through on just my physical ability through high school.
Right.
But everybody has a certain level where their physical ability stops. And, even if you continue to work on it, I'm not going to grow taller than 6'2". So I'm not going to be able to get 6'6" and have really good downward angle on my pitches. It's just not going to happen. So I've got to focus on the mental side. And to me, that is more important, way more important. And anything you can do to help with that. And I enjoy doing that with these kids and just try to get them mentally focused because they're showing up. So I know they're going to work on the physical side.
Right. Well, I've learned a lot today. I've been encouraged. I'm ready to get out there and tackle the world. And man, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
For sharing this book with me. I really enjoyed reading it. It was cool to see that there's so much crossover in industry, right? It doesn't matter. And even outside the music or sports world, these are things that you can use in regular everyday life, out on a regular job, out in the, just meeting with anybody.
I hope so. And thank you for saying that, because that's what ultimately gives us all hope, is that knowing that the good and the bad that we deal with every day, that someone else has already experienced this and maybe can be a guide and help us along, or we have someone that we can celebrate with our achievements. Like, hey, we did that. Remember, I did that and you did that, and we, kind of thing. So, well, hey man, I appreciate your time today. Excellent. I know that those that are going to watch this are going to gain a whole lot, and I hope that we can do something like this again in the future.
Oh, absolutely. You just hit me up.
Absolutely. Okay, man. Have a good one out there.
All right. You too.